Welcome to the 2020 Graduate Student Opening Convocation. I'm Brooke Noonan, Executive Director of UChicago Grad, an office that supports all grad students through services and programs like orientation. I'll share more about our resources later, but for now, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the University of Chicago and to introduce to you President Robert J. Zimmer.
It is a great pleasure to welcome all of you today as you are about to begin your time as graduate students at the University of Chicago. This quarter is a unique one in our history, with some of you attending classes in person and others doing so remotely, either in the United States or from abroad. No doubt for many of you, the learning and research you undertake during your time at the university will be informed by the challenges brought by COVID-19 and the impact it has had on communities around the world. As the next generation of scholars, leaders, and professionals, it is likely you will be involved in addressing and overcoming the challenges this pandemic has brought, just as graduate students before you have risen to meet the challenges of their day for more than 12 decades. Today, I'm going to talk to you about this university's unique culture of intellectual challenge and analytical rigor, and how this environment will benefit your academic growth and professional development throughout your time here and beyond. I myself first came to the University of Chicago 43 years ago this fall as a junior faculty member in the mathematics department. I found then, and continue to find now, many years later, that the University of Chicago has an intellectually exhilarating environment, and I hope this is a sense that you will grow to share. Even though all of you will be working in a great diversity of disciplines and disciplinary cultures, with widely varying personal aspirations, different education and family backgrounds, uneven economic situations, and non-uniform length of time your studies will involve, your involvement with the university will have at least one aspect in common. You come to a university with an intensity of focus that is unusual in its single-mindedness of purpose, which provides a powerful sense of unity, embracing all these differences. And what is this unifying single-mindedness of purpose, and how do we understand it? As is often the case, it is useful to go back to a defining moment of the past. When the University of Chicago was founded in 1890, and then opened for classes shortly thereafter, it was with a very different ambition than that of universities coming before it. At that time, most of the universities in the United States had begun either as a college for training clergy and elites, such as the most famous of the universities on the East Coast, or as a state-funded land-grant university with an emphasis on agriculture and related technologies. The University of Chicago, on the contrary, was established to be a full-fledged research university from the very start, where research, graduate education, and undergraduate education were all part of a fabric devoted to rigorous, intense, and open inquiry across a broad range of disciplines. Along with this came a firm belief in the power of such an environment to foster innovative thinking, originality, and ideas of impact. And likewise the belief that education embedded in such a culture was singularly empowering. This singular focus on open inquiry and the embrace of questioning and challenge that it entails has been the foundation of the university since its beginning, and it continues as our defining and unifying culture today. The uniqueness of this project and its seriousness of purpose is why the university was able to attract so many outstanding faculty from around the country, indeed from around the world, even in its very early days. It is certainly true that the many universities on the East Coast and the land-grant universities around the country have expanded their view and in fact have moved much closer to the model that the University of Chicago and Johns Hopkins as well established at the end of the 19th century. But resonance of this singular focus of the university is felt today by virtually all who come to the University of Chicago, and I am confident that this will be your experience as well. There are two other aspects of the University of Chicago history that strongly connect to the present-day university that are important to mention. First, diversity and inclusion, which are a critical issue for our society as a whole, has in addition a very particular role at the University of Chicago. The nature of questions being asked and perspectives being expressed are often a function of the experiences and outlooks of those participating. Diversity and inclusion for the university is therefore particularly germane to our core mission. We must ensure that our scholarly and education community is comprised of a rich mix of individuals who, through their own distinctive viewpoints, contribute to the intellectually challenging culture of inquiry of the university. From our earliest days, we have been committed to deep and active engagement with scholars, students, and visitors from around the world. Our many international programs and our global centers in Delhi, Beijing, Hong Kong, London, and Paris create vital opportunities for learning, research, collaboration, and partnerships. International students and faculty have long been an important part of our community, and we welcome the enormous talent they bring and the distinctive perspectives and knowledge that their backgrounds bring to discourse at the university. We value immigration as a critical pipeline of talent and ideas essential to fulfilling our highest aspirations in research, education, and impact, and for the talent and energy that immigrants bring to this country. This commitment extends to those members of our community who may be undocumented or protected under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, and accordingly, all DACA students receive the same treatment under university programs as domestic students. Throughout its history, the university has acted on the belief that the capacity to contribute was not limited to some specific groups, and very importantly, in addition, that the richness of the community directly contributed to the richness of the intellectual environment. We emphasize every day that we are unwavering in this commitment. Second, a key part of the university's history is the singular role the university has had in maintaining open inquiry, supporting free expression, and ensuring those in our community are free to express and hear ideas, even if others find them uncomfortable or even objectionable. As it has been throughout its history, the University of Chicago today remains the national leader among universities and colleges in articulating the importance of free expression and open discourse to the quality of education. The intellectually challenging environment, intrinsic to the most empowering education, demands an environment that supports free expression and open discourse, which is why such an environment has been a key and integral feature of education at the university over its entire history, just as it is for every student at the university today. So this is what you are now inheriting and what those of us who have been here for some time also inherited. What will it have to do with your actual experience? What will it entail and what will it mean? First, of course, will come your own work. This is an institution that is designed to make you think, to empower you with an analytic approach to your field, where questioning is not only encouraged, but viewed as essential. There is no originality, no innovation, and no intellectual clarity of depth without the combination of capacity for analysis and questioning. Your job will be to make the most you can of this environment through your own hard work, your interaction with faculty, and your interaction with fellow students, whether in your own area or beyond. Knowing how accomplished and talented you are, I'm confident that you will. The university's commitment to openness to new ideas, to questioning, and to intellectual freedom will be great assets for you. Failed attempts and periods of frustration are simply an inevitable part of the story, but so too is the exhilaration of clarity. There is, however, a further meaning beyond what you personally will accomplish here. The culture of openness at the university, the willingness and ability for our whole community to listen, to question, to challenge in an environment of mutual respect, even if accompanied by intellectual skepticism or fundamental disagreement, is recreated every day by our faculty, students, and staff. It will be up to you not only to benefit from this environment that will support your own work, but to be a participant in preserving and enhancing a culture of open, rigorous discourse for your colleagues while you are here and for those who come after you. This too requires purpose and focus. You will leave a legacy at the university, which involves your participation in the intellectual community while you are here, your accomplishments, and your handing to your successors, as you have been handed, an institution supporting openness, inclusion, questioning, and rigor. As a member of the University of Chicago, it will be your responsibility to take part in and preserve this culture of openness and free expression. Your work begins. I hope it will be as exhilarating for you as it has been for me for 43 years here at the university. Enjoy it.
Jason Merchant is the Lorna Puttkamer Strauss Professor in the Department of Linguistics and in the college. Jason's primary research is informal syntax, where he's published and edited books and articles on grammatical theory, analyzing language structures in more than 24 languages with special emphasis on modern Greek, and informal semantics, morphology, and phonology. He's also done experimental syntax, fieldwork in the Balkans, work on historical semantics and legal interpretation, and on bilingual children's language competency. He's held prestigious fellowships and teaching appointments at universities around the world. During his tenure at UChicago, Jason has had several academic leadership appointments. In his current role as vice provost, Jason works with deans and chairs on faculty and other academic appointments, promotions, recruitments, and retention, where the university's commitment to the highest levels of research and teaching inform faculty-governed decisions. Jason is also responsible for UChicago Grad, providing faculty leadership for this important resource for our graduate students and postdoctoral researchers.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you to your graduate studies at the University of Chicago. Some of you are embarking on programs that consist of coursework that will present you with new challenges and higher expectations. Some of you have been working in the world and are returning to a university setting after some time away. Some of you have already earned a graduate degree, whether a master's or a professional degree, and are embarking on a new, more advanced degree. Many of you are starting a degree that will lead to the highest qualification in your field, such as a JD, MD, MFA, or MBA. Others are embarking on the research degree par excellence, the PhD. All of you will find the experience challenging and exhilarating. All of you will encounter new ideas, new texts, new thinkers, new methods and techniques of analysis, and new data to incorporate into your thinking. Every one of you will have your ideas about how things work challenged and reordered, and be confronted with data and evidence that challenge your assumptions and make you think more clearly about your own ideas and commitments, and in many cases, that will refine and even overturn those ideas. All of you have been selected on the basis of your prior achievements and your demonstrated capacity to do more. At the foundation of your opportunities to do more is a principle of action and inquiry on which all the university's achievements rest: academic freedom. Academic freedom means the ability not just to think and say what you believe, but to choose the very topics of inquiry. Why is this freedom important? Well, let me tell you a very brief story about an economist in the 19th century, Richard Elley, who was at Johns Hopkins and quite prominent, but who expressed political views that were at odds with the leadership of Johns Hopkins. He was fired from Johns Hopkins, but got a job at the University of Wisconsin, where he continued to express certain political views that made him not a friend to certain legislators in the state of Wisconsin, who pressured the regents of the university to fire him as he had been from Johns Hopkins. The regents, however, not only did not fire him, but after they looked into the matter, came back with a ringing endorsement of academic freedom that I will read to you. They wrote, "We cannot for a moment believe that knowledge has reached its final goal, or that the present condition of society is perfect. We must therefore welcome from our teachers, and I'll add students, such discussions as shall suggest the means and prepare the way by which knowledge may be extended, present evils be removed, and others prevented." This is the core reason for academic freedom, and graduate studies represent an unparalleled opportunity for you to exercise this freedom. Graduate education is more important now than ever. The shifting landscape, not just of higher education, but of our societies, requires that we renew our commitment to and be vocal about its importance in ways that we may have taken for granted in the past. Graduate education is not just important for the training it imparts, but for the fact that the degrees granted by graduate education programs, such as the ones you're embarking on, represent the highest degrees that universities confer, and they represent the intersection of the discovery of new knowledge with the dissemination of it, the very reason for being of universities. People with graduate degrees are experts at a time when expertise and evidence itself is under attack in areas across the university's fields of study where experts, the scholars and scientists produced by graduate education, have achieved essential consensus. It's worth remembering in this context that universities are the only institutions that humans have created that are solely dedicated to the discovery, preservation, and dissemination of knowledge. They are a bulwark against ignorance, intolerance, and superstition, and the loci of transformative education and research. They demand and reward a commitment to the highest levels of achievement and study, and can thrive only when they ensure unfettered academic freedom. It is sometimes too easy to take such institutions for granted and fail to appreciate both their importance in our joint projects of discovery and their potential fragility. Graduate programs represent a core part of the university's ongoing institutional dedication to the ideals of free inquiry and truth-seeking that the Greeks pioneered and that helped create and continue to form the only foundation for free societies. At a time when the very ideas of truth, merit, and free inquiry are under attack, it is of renewed importance to express our dedication to these ideals. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you today. I want to give a special welcome to our international students, whose path here was particularly onerous this year. The university has always welcomed international students since its founding. In fact, the university's very first PhD was granted in 1893 to Eija Asada, a student from Japan, who had come to the United States to study the Semitic languages, in particular, Biblical Hebrew, with the first president of the university, William Rainey Harper. The U.S. has the best education system in the world, if I may say so, because we seek out and enroll and employ the best people from around the world. Citizens of other countries are essential to what makes American higher education the envy of the world. Their presence, your presence, benefits America, our universities, and the world, so I thank you especially for making the trip this year. All of you, no matter where you're from, are beginning and undertaking an awesome project, and the University of Chicago stands ready to help you achieve the next steps in human understanding in all the fields of study that you are entering into. Once again, welcome.
Dr. Kafi Moragne-Patterson is the Director of Student Civic Education in the University Community Service Center. In this role, she leads programs that support the integration of the overall vision for student civic engagement within the Office of Civic Engagement and across campus. Before joining UChicago, Kafi was a tenure-track assistant professor of social work at Dominican University. She continues to teach, research, and publish around interdisciplinary issues, animating studies of urban education, racial and economic stratification, adolescent identity formation, and educational interventions in marginalized communities. Kafi is on the steering committee of the UChicago Consortium on School Research, board of the Circus Team, and women's board of the Chicago Urban League. She's an alumna of the Chicago Urban League Chicago Booth School of Business Impact Executive Fellowship Program and the Square One Foundation's Civic Action Capstone Fellowship. A proud alum of Kenwood Academy High School here in Hyde Park, Kafi received a BA in Cultural Anthropology and Africana Studies from Vassar College. She also received an MSW from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and a PhD from the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration.
Hello, my name is Kafi Moragne-Patterson, and I'm incredibly honored to have the opportunity to connect with you today, albeit virtually, to welcome you to the great institution that is the University of Chicago. As an alum of the doctoral program at the School of Social Service Administration, a native of Hyde Park, and the current director of Student Civic Education and the University Community Service Center situated in the Office of Civic Engagement, I'm excited to connect with you at the start of your time here and hope that my words can impart some level of hope and guidance that resonate beyond your time at the university. First, I want to start by congratulating each of you on being admitted to your highly competitive respective programs during a profound historical moment, both at this institution and across this great city. You are embarking on graduate education in one of the most intellectually rigorous universities in the world, but importantly, you are also becoming part of a larger urban environment where insights, analyses, ideas, and knowledges are being created across the 77 neighborhoods that make up this city. Respecting the expertise of community members beyond our campus walls and working to understand the nuances and intersections of their histories will open up a set of possibilities that will enhance your capacity to better see your possible selves while also reimagining how you envision the university, the responsibility to the world, and how you can humble yourself and the university in relation to surrounding communities. As an ethnographer, I can assure you that this act of reflexivity, or the process of becoming self-aware, is an important life skill that will make your research ideas sharper and your intellectual contributions more profound. As I prepared for this speech, a speech that centers the importance of reflexivity in the production of knowledge, I thought it might be nice to reflect on my own memories of the university as a small child, teenager, and eventual doctoral student. From what I can recall, as a small child, I didn't quite understand why University of Chicago students took up so much space. At the time, I meant this literally, as in they took up more than their fair share of space on sidewalks and buses. I vividly remember being annoyed when I'd be walking home from St. Thomas the Apostle right on 55th and Woodlawn with my grandmother, and they never scooted over to give us space to walk on the sidewalk. Or when they took up a lot of space on the bus and train with their giant book bags and coveted seats while elderly patrons stood mere feet from them. Or how no matter where they were, be it inside of stores, restaurants, libraries, or parks, the volume of their voices carried, and the contents of their animated conversations seemed otherworldly. So overall, to a small child, university students just seemed to be unwilling or incapable of acknowledging what was happening around them and then responding appropriately. As a young community member, I chalked it up to a basic lack of kindness. However, as a teenager in the 90s, I saw a different, more favorable side of students and the campus. For example, my mother enrolled me in the university's Blue Gargoyles tutoring program with a young Taiwanese student named James, who taught me cool math tricks, never got mad at me when I forgot my homework, and introduced me to dollar shake days at Reynolds Club. To this day, I drink those shakes, although I swear they're not as sick as they used to be. And I actually taught my 8-year-old some of the multiplication tricks that James taught me just last week. Also, as a high schooler at Kenwood Academy, also known as the best high school in the city, I was able to participate in a program with U of C where I had access to the Regenstein Library on par with the privileges granted to a college student. This meant that I had immediate access to what seemed like an immensely cool, safe space to study with endless books, albeit to the now familiar soundtrack of nail biting and incessant shushing. Another great memory, and I'm totally aging myself, was that of me and my friends sneaking onto the roof of a building that shall go unnamed to watch Fuel perform for a student concert series. And finally, much later in life, my high school sweetheart and partner of 18 years would propose to me in front of Doc Films, one of our favorite on-campus teenage spots. I would ultimately leave Chicago to pursue my bachelor and master's degrees, but the duality of these childhood and teen memories in part compelled me to return to the city and the University of Chicago to make sense of institution-community relationships. While in the doctoral program at the School of Social Service Administration, I studied the intersection of social work and urban education and was broadly focused on the ways racial and social inequalities impacted the educational trajectories of urban communities, with particular attention to the experiences of youth of color. I sought to understand the challenges that students of color experience in secondary and college settings to illuminate the individual, institutional, and sociocultural level obstacles that contributed to racialized cleavages in educational attainment and social mobility. This meant that I conducted the bulk of my own research and that of the UChicago Consortium on School Research, where I was a researcher, across high schools in the city that I already believed myself to be familiar. This experience as a researcher was eye-opening because my connection with the university aroused suspicions about my research that I had not anticipated as an alum of the Chicago public school system, nor as a Black woman in a predominantly Black school district. Privileges that I had taken for granted were now complicated, and it provided a humbling opportunity for me to reflect on how identities can be privileged in one space and denied in others. As a representative of the university, it also made me ever mindful of the ways I conducted myself in my own community, be it walking on the sidewalk, moving my bag while sitting on the bus, or even the volume of my voice while in public spaces. Ultimately, my time in the doctoral program was one of the best educational experiences of my life, and I learned many important lessons. In addition to the value of self-awareness, I learned to build authentic relationships with peers in your program, but also across the institution, to learn the value of radical self-care, to leave the campus, and finally, that although you may come to work with faculty who are specialists in your area of interest, the most valuable advice I received and acted upon was casting a wider net. Ultimately, you want to surround yourself with people who are invested in you as a whole person, people who want to see you graduate, people who can advocate for you when you are not in a room, people who commit to your full humanity and not just your production as a student. Fortunately for me, SSA blessed me with Professors Waldo Johnson, Gina Samuels, Sydney Hans, Julie Henley, Susan Lambert, Bill Seitz, Yoon Sun Che, and Dodie Norton, to name a select few. Find your mentors and support system, both inside and outside of your areas of interest, and nurture those relationships. And while those were my experiences, you will have your own. There has been significant discussion recently about the new challenges graduate students will face during this move to virtual learning that I would never have imagined. Some of the more seriously stated newer challenges include online classes, which may be especially hard for diverse learning styles, balancing caregiver responsibilities that are often taken for granted with challenging academic workloads, reduced access to on-campus resources, a serious sense of loss as it relates to building community with your peers, a potential sense of imposter syndrome given feelings of disconnection from the physical campus and isolation from faculty, staff, and peers. And some of the less seriously stated, but still important challenges might include not experiencing the full beauty and sounds of an autumnal season on the university campus as the leaves crunch beneath you, missing the agony of crossing the midway in a snowstorm, not getting to see your professor's taste in shoes, and missing the in-person performance of second-year graduate students brazenly flaunting terms and theories in class that they have no understanding of. However, while I want to affirm the deep loss that this creates, I want to assure you that these experiences will be on the horizon for you, and while important, they are not what make or break a University of Chicago experience. As you find yourself facing these aforementioned newer challenges brought out by the transition to virtual interacting, I want to push you to continue, or in some cases to start, your journey of reflexivity. Reflexivity or self-awareness means that I want to caution you to start differentiating between the things happening in the world right now that are truly new versus things happening in the world that may simply be new to you. This distinction is crucial, as what may be new for you might also reflect deeply historical challenges that continue to plague your classmates, coworkers, professors, staff, or the very communities you want to study and learn from. For things that feel new, I implore you to reflect on why they are new to you. Had you not heard of them? Has it not impacted someone close to you? Have you not had the time to read more about something? Whatever the case, I want you to begin to understand the idea that some of the statistics I will read to you in a moment reflect an aspect of your identity that is privileged. By identity, I mean the ways that things like your race, ethnicity, class, citizenship status, religion, sex, gender, sexual orientation, educational attainment, age, language, mental or physical ability, or a host of other unmentioned identities have positioned you to be more or less aware of ongoing local, national, and global tensions and their implications. A quick way of determining privilege can even be whether you know what each of these identities mean. Often not knowing what they are is in itself a silent demonstration of privilege when language is not a barrier. In this instance, when I say privilege, I do not mean feeling like you have power. There are many privileged people who feel powerless, so instead I turn to the work of scholars like Kimberly Crenshaw and Beverly Tatum, who situate privilege as more so reflected in one's ability to not expend mental space or physical duress on issues that they believe do not intersect with their lives, or those of the people and communities that they care for. Put another way, to be otherwise unencumbered and or disinvested from movements, policies, or social phenomena that do not impact your ability to navigate day-to-day life. I know these days some people stop listening when the word privilege is used, but I want to challenge you to stay with me, as true reflexivity means grappling with ideas and concepts that makes us vulnerable, which is never easy. So I'm going to read off a few data points in a couple of categories, and your job is to listen and simply determine whether the information is new or not. Don't worry, there are no right or wrong answers. Here we go. According to the Brookings Institute, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and the Regulatory Rollback Tracker out of Harvard Law School, the undermining and de-emphasizing of science has contributed to significant setbacks in environmental protections that have resulted in weakened protections for over half the nation's wetlands and the rescinding of water pollution regulations for fracking on federal and indigenous lands. As it relates to immigration, we have seen an expansion of an already inhumane ban on Muslims, which includes restrictions on additional countries including Myanmar, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Nigeria, Sudan, and Tanzania, and aggressive, deadly, and horrific actions that separate and harm families in detainment centers across our southern border. And as it relates to the experiences of marginalized populations, a final ruling by the Department of Education's Title IX doctrine has raised the bar of proof for sexual misconduct and bolstered the rights of those accused. A proposed fiscal year 2021 budget cuts billions in assistance for some people with disabilities through Social Security disability over the course of 10 years. We continue to see disproportionate contact and death by Black people of all ages, classes, genders, and sexual orientations by the criminal justice system and carceral state, as well as the persistent disregard for the value of Black life by institutions charged with serving and protecting everyone. And there has been a resurgence in anti-Asian sentiment and a recapitulation of historical trends that denies Asian populations their full humanity. While all quite disturbing and cause for concern, I say none of this to scare you, but instead to push you to consider how much of this is new information and how much of this is something you have had the privilege to not reckon with regularly. So while our current moment is largely being understood as new, I implore you to remember that across the nation, many communities that have largely been seen as disposable and excludable do not view this moment as new. The newness stems less from the acts of brutality and disinvestment and more from community organizing efforts, advances in technology, and the expansion of social media that amplify the pervasiveness of these exclusions. For me, regardless of whether challenges are new or historical, the possibilities that exist in this moment mean that your scholarship at the University of Chicago and your engagement with the city of Chicago will help determine whether we return to where we were prior to the pandemic in the most recent wave of national and global protests, or rather if we choose to acknowledge that these are part of long-standing histories that need to be considered. What role can you play in reflecting on your own privileges so that you enter and exit communities in Chicago with cultural humility, be they virtual or in person, so that we are not returning to the same world, but instead crafting a fundamentally different kind of society in a fundamentally different kind of world where rights and resources are conceptualized in new and innovative ways. As the Director of Student Civic Education and the University Community Service Center and the Office of Civic Engagement, I work with a committed group of people that help execute and guide an institution-wide commitment that draws upon our strength as an economic anchor and on the power of education, research, and innovation to create positive impact and opportunity. The Office of Civic Engagement demonstrates this commitment by connecting students to meaningful opportunities to learn from and contribute to Southside leaders and institutions, and by connecting local residents to educational and employment opportunities. We do this mindful that to do this kind of work authentically requires humility and understanding of the history of the university, which at times has not created opportunities for its neighbors, but has acted in ways that brought discord and harm. While a founding principle of the institution was to extend the university's mission beyond our campus, there were times in our history when the university's actions were at odds with this founding value. Some examples include the university administration's support of racially restrictive covenants which limited African American residents' housing choices through the mid-20th century, the physical design of campus which played a role in creating the sense of a physical barrier between the institution and the Southside community, and a more recent example of discord between the university and neighboring communities was the lack of a Level 1 trauma center at UChicago Medicine, which became the subject of several years of community organizing. But this moment led to the university in time agreeing not only to build the trauma center sought by activists, but to work with them to form a community advisory committee, which engaged them and other community members to guide key actions for the medical center in relationship to the Southside community. While the university's history includes these moments of mistrust, it also includes actions that have had a positive impact. The nature of the evolving relationship between the university and its neighbors makes it all the more important for students to engage communities ethically and meaningfully, respecting the knowledge that they've created and respecting that you are now part of profound history that's constantly evolving both on and off campus. So I want to push you to consider what your contribution will be to reckoning with the historical mistrust between the university and surrounding community, and how your very identification as a student of the University of Chicago leaves you with ethical dimensions to be wrestled with and right-sized at all stages of rigorous inquiry and across all of your professions. Whether you are an aspiring mathematician, religious advisor, professor, politician, medical doctor, social worker, engineer, author, artist, entrepreneur, or any other profession, how will your work contribute to a greater relationship between the university and the city of Chicago? Physical sciences, what connection will your work make between innovation and equity? Educators and social workers, how will your pursuits reinforce the work of abolitionist teaching, inquiry, and activism? Medical doctors and spiritual leaders, how will you respond to oppression across your disciplines with your hands, body, heart, and voice? Business students and continuing professionals, how will you decolonize the theories of your professions to create new paradigms of understanding? And those interested in policy, what social values will your work reflect? Where will you look for answers? And who will you consult along the way? So I encourage you not to lose sight of these questions and allow them to guide your work. Your answers to these inquiries will define your legacy at the University of Chicago, not the virtual challenges set forth by the pandemic. And so in closing, I thought it would be nice to end on a hopeful note with a little practical advice from myself and other Chicagoans. For my part, I find it genuinely gratifying to be able to say that regardless of your field, you have enrolled in the best school in the nation. Clearly, those of you attending the School of Social Service Administration are the brightest, and I would be remiss not to shout out Booth, where my husband is also an alum, but it is the case for all of you. Please let that sink in fully and know that you would not be here if you weren't worthy of acceptance. I will tell you this now because you may not hear it often while you are here. You are enough, your ideas are enough, your story is enough, and you are worthy of support and kindness regardless of your academic achievements. And for those whose identities intersect to make them the most vulnerable, please know that caring for yourself and prioritizing your health is in itself a revolutionary act. Other Chicagos wanted me to share with you, the university is not an island. It is part of a larger community that is part of a large city. Part of the value of the university is that it is part of those communities, so value them, learn about them, and respect them. It will only enhance your experience that you have seen. Another one said, the narrative about us outside of this city is tainted, poisoned, nefariously narrow, and by absence of information, false. Talk to us, read books, attend community events when it's safe to do so you can really get to know the city that you are in. Another one said, if a stranger says, come check it out, do not in fact go with them to check it out. Another person said, don't let the beauty of the U of C campus stop you from exploring the great city of Chicago. Go south, go west, and go north, but avoid Wrigleyville if you can. Someone else said, when you can come to campus, remember to get to know the city, the real South Side, not just Hyde Park, the West Side, Pilsen, Pullman, Little Village. You'll find the North Side on your own, but remember to learn from your environment and don't camp out in the ivory tower alone. And finally, someone said, get salt, pepper, and mild sauce on everything. And with that, I want to thank the UChicago Grad team for giving me this opportunity to address you. Have an amazing year and consider collaborating with the University Community Service Center and other offerings within the broader Office of Civic Engagement during your time here.
Graduate Council Co-President Kimberly Liu is a third-year graduate student from Naperville, Illinois, currently pursuing a PhD in computational and applied mathematics. Prior to coming to the University of Chicago, Kim attended Northwestern University and Dartmouth College, earning her undergraduate degree in mathematics and economics. At UChicago, Kim previously served as Vice President of Social Programming on Graduate Council and is a member of the Association for Women in Mathematics.
Welcome. It's an amazing privilege to be able to address you all as you embark on your journey at UChicago. Whatever your path to this day, each of you has come so far and demonstrated a tremendous capacity for intellectual growth. You will change this university, and this university will change you. Some of you may be wondering what it will be like when you emerge on the other side of your graduate education. Well, there was once a time when you attended talks just for the free pizza. Now you'll attend talks for the free beer. There was once a time when you knew nothing about your field. Now you'll know everything, about a highly specific sub-area of your field, that is, and your friends and family will too, because you'll never stop talking about it. But all jokes aside, you really are entering into one of the most fun, exciting, and intellectually stimulating times of your life. You will make lifelong friends. You will learn all sorts of things about yourself, others, and the world at large. And you will, I am certain, come to love UChicago. The past year has been tumultuous, to say the least. You're embarking on this new chapter at a time that is not just consequential in your own lives, but also critical for this country and for the world. I've been thinking a lot about what an education should be in this moment. What does it mean to be a university? How do we think about its role and our role at such a challenging and unsettled time? The word education comes from the Latin educere, to lead forth, to draw out, to raise up. Therefore, I encourage you to bring out your full selves this year. Raise your ideas, your experiences, and your dreams. Go forth with a spirit of exploration and adventure. Try new things, experiment, and take intellectual chances. Now that you're in grad school, you're forever done with simply being the passive recipient of knowledge generated by others. In grad school, you'll acquire the tools that will allow you to create new knowledge, to understand things that no one before you has ever understood. And along the way, you'll contribute enduring scholarship that others will build on in order to understand things that they have never understood. However, many of the most important ideas you'll encounter will not come from a professor or a textbook or an online assignment. They'll come from your friends and colleagues. Many of the questions you'll ask, the challenges you'll surmount, and the new perspectives you'll come to embrace will be the result of your interactions with one another. Remember that you belong to this community, and this community transcends classroom walls, because UChicago is so much more than a physical location, and this year we get to live that fact. On Grad Council, we are committed to providing opportunities to connect with other students and form meaningful relationships. We are here to support, sustain, and encourage you as we learn how to be present for each other in new ways. Let us embody the power of a community as an essential educational force. We have never needed the promise of this university more.
Rohil Primgee is the Graduate Council Co-President and a third-year graduate student from Fort Worth, Texas, currently pursuing a joint degree MBA and Master's in Public Policy at the Booth School of Business and Harris School of Public Policy. Prior to coming to the University of Chicago, Rohil earned his undergraduate degrees in government and philosophy from Dartmouth College, graduating cum laude. At Dartmouth, Rohil received the Dean's Plate Leadership Award for outstanding contribution to campus life. After graduation, Rohil was awarded the Dartmouth Presidential Fellowship to work in the President's Office at Dartmouth on strategic planning for new initiatives. At UChicago, Rohil previously served as graduate liaison to the Board of Trustees and the Harris Student Government's representative on Grad Council. Rohil plans to transition to management consulting for social sector organizations to help fulfill his long-term ambitions in philanthropic innovation. He progressed toward this goal by interning at Accenture's public services team in Boston last summer and plans to return post-graduation.
Graduate school is an exciting place full of like-minded individuals, and I'm so happy to welcome you to a university that is truly a community of graduate students. If you haven't yet, I really encourage you to get to know your peers, start exploring Chicago, and maybe brace yourself for your first Chicago winter. As co-presidents of the Graduate Council, Kim and I are here to help make your graduate careers easier, more rewarding, and also more fun. We as Grad Council work closely with UChicago Grad and Campus and Student Life to represent the voice of all graduate students, and we are so excited to hear from you as you acclimate to campus. I don't want to sugarcoat it, however. Graduate school can be difficult at times. While I'm sure undergraduate studies were difficult for some of you, just as high school was difficult for many others. But if you're here at UChicago, that means you've risen to the challenge at each step of the way. That's no coincidence. Each level prepared you for the next, and this time will be no different. You're ready for this, but that doesn't mean you're ready to do it all on your own. Part of preparation for grad school might be teaching you how to take advantage of the resources you need to succeed, whether those resources are academic, career-related, extracurricular, or even social. We all need balance, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. Grad school will push you, and I know it has pushed me, especially during challenging times like corporate recruiting or one of my periodic nothing is working no matter what I do phases. Thankfully, I've had many outstanding friends and advisors to help me along the way. I know I couldn't have done it without them. Outside of research or academics, one of the most difficult parts of graduate school is that it can be easy to isolate yourself in your work or division. We call it being siloed. You're driving your own project, and it's possible no one else in the world is working on the same thing. That's why part of our goal as Grad Council is to foster a collaborative, supportive, and downright fun graduate community to break the walls and the many silos on campus. We are one UChicago. Don't forget that. To help combat the siloed nature of campus, we are pleased to announce the opening of the Graduate Student Lounge that will open once all campus operations resume. This social space will be somewhere that all graduate students, from Pritzker Med to Harris Public Policy, have access. My most enjoyable memories at UChicago have been going to a pub and having wide-ranging conversations with friends pursuing various PhDs ranging from art history to molecular engineering over a glass of wine. Graduate students are a central pillar of this university. You will see that your peers often take on heavy leadership activities in each of our 12 graduate divisions, both academic and social. But the same is true for Grad Council. We need talented and passionate individuals like you who want to partner with us to improve graduate student life across campus. Take advantage of Grad Council programming, but also come to our open meetings for students or sit in on a GC committee. We're excited to have you. Finally, some personal advice while you're here. You're at a world-class university in so many fields. Take advantage of it. If you're a Booth or Harris student like me, try going to a virtual humanities seminar. If you're a scientist, go listen to a visiting speaker at the law school. Once campus slowly reopens, take advantage of the free student tickets at the Logan Center to see a student player concert. And definitely check out the Nobel Prizes you can view in person at the Sahe Hall of Economics, or browse the special collections at the Reg. Take the tour up to the world's second largest Carillon, sitting 200 feet above us right now. This university has so much to offer. Don't take it for granted. Thank you.
Again, I'm Brooke Noonan, and on behalf of UChicago Grad, I want to thank the Convocation speakers for sharing their wisdom and inspiration. Thanks also to the UChicago Grad team for their incredible work coordinating the first ever virtual orientation. This was not the way we had expected to welcome you, but we hope that the series of videos, webinars, resource guides, and online meetups over the last few weeks has been an effective way to introduce you to campus and to each other, albeit remotely. We invite you to revisit the Canvas course platform throughout the year when questions arise or some information might be timelier for you. In the meantime, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to acquaint you briefly with our office. I've heard it said that the one thing all graduate students have in common is UChicago Grad, and we hope that you will consider us a go-to resource throughout your graduate program and later as alumni. Overseen by Jason Merchant, our Vice Provost who spoke earlier, UChicago Grad is a one-stop shop that helps graduate students and postdocs navigate their academic and professional careers. The diversity of our graduate student population is key to the richness of our community, and UChicago Grad's resources are geared to meet the needs of all students from different backgrounds at every point on the academic trajectory and at different stages in life. Though we can't connect with you in person this fall, I'm happy to report that we are fully operational after having transitioned all of our services to remote last spring, including panels, workshops, and advising appointments for fellowships, writing support, public speaking training, and career exploration and planning. On the fellowships front, our staff help doctoral and master's students identify grant opportunities, edit statements through individual consultations and virtual writing groups, and submit competitive applications. In fact, UChicago graduate students have enjoyed a long tradition of fellowship success, winning more Fulbrights, for example, than any other institution for over 30 years. So it's up to you to continue the tradition. No pressure. Our Grad Talk programs help build public speaking skills, whether in person or online. Interactive workshops and one-on-one sessions help students practice presenting via Zoom or in person, interviewing virtually, and networking with colleagues. UChicago Grad is the place where you can get ready for life beyond UChicago, preparing for careers in academia, industry, nonprofits, and government. We have the largest dedicated graduate career team in the country who can help you with career planning, job documents, meeting alumni, and securing internships and externships through the Grad Global Impact Internship Program. On October 15th, we will host a virtual edition of Grad Fair, an event that connects dozens of employers from diverse sectors with our graduate students. They want to recruit you. It's never too early to start thinking about your career path, so we hope to see you at Grad Fair and at an appointment with your UChicago Grad Career Advisor soon. Graduate school is challenging, and it's normal for students to experience periods of anxiety or isolation, especially during this unprecedented pandemic. Because your academic well-being depends on your emotional well-being, UChicago Grad designs programs that provide both intellectual and social outlets. The Expand Your Perspective series, for example, gives grads the chance to present their research to peers from other disciplines, then discussed informally. This year, the series will include a virtual trip to the Art Institute of Chicago, downtown, where grads will give mini lectures about objects from the collection, then enjoy an online happy hour with fellow students from across the university. UChicago Grad also fosters community among student parents. Though the Family Resource Center, which is a gathering space for families, is currently closed, our staff keeps student parents engaged through virtual family-friendly classes, informative workshops, and at-home activities announced in the monthly Family Resource Center newsletter. Another great UChicago Grad resource is the Sounding Board Advisor, who can offer tips on managing anxiety, problem solving, and optimizing work-life balance, which is now more important than ever. So, how do you keep track of all these great programs? The best way to stay in the know is through Grad Guide Weekly, or the GGW. It's a bulletin that's full of announcements that is emailed to grad students every Thursday morning. The GGW is posted on grad.uchicago.edu, which is a hub of need-to-know grad info, where you can register for events and schedule appointments with our UChicago Grad advisors. You can also look out for programs and resources that include the iconic Grad Gargoyle. That's a symbol that signifies all things grad at UChicago. We like to think of it like a hot pepper on a menu that that conveys something as spicy, the grad gargoyle denotes grad-focused resources at UChicago across campus. In closing, if there's one thing that I would like for you to remember about UChicago Grad, it's this. If you have a question, a problem, or suggestion, and you're not sure where to go, start with UChicago Grad. If we can't help you ourselves, we will point you in the right direction and connect you with resources to keep you on track. As soon as it's safe to do so, we look forward to welcoming you in person at our office on the 3rd floor of the University Bookstore and at the Grad Student Lounge on the 4th floor of the bookstore. Have a great start to the fall quarter. We are so glad you are part of the UChicago graduate community.